Oh, I smell the Allisons and Griffins and who knows what. It's Joe Adamusco, and he's already flying. He beat us to the punch, so it looks like we're going to get some air. It's cloudy. It's supposed to rain, but it's not raining now. Let's go back and see what the Mr. Awesomes do. He's under the tree here. How do you fly under a tree like that? Anyway, Joe's got a bunch of props with him. We're going to be trying to do some prop testing and whatnot and whatever. We made up an extra head for the Seafire, a muffler that has a little smaller holes, different restriction pattern. And it looks like we may have even walked out and gotten some weather here. Hey, Joe?
Consistent. I gotta go in a click or two, but
ran consistent the whole flight? Listen, let me show you something. You see, when you're in the middle of that circle, you're only missing that tree by less than a foot.
okay.
Your outer wing is a foot from that tree, so be careful.
Okay, well, usually I try to get on this upper side, but it's a little wet here and slimy.
Yeah, I'd want to be on that. Basically, is working out pretty good.
Well, yeah.
Hey, that's great.
A lot of new shit. I'm gonna be a busy boy. I know, just trying to get stuff together. Now, what do you want to do with this? Is it on?
Yeah, let's see if we can get this set one more time. Then I'll clean the filter.
Okay, what are you gonna do with the camera once you get it?
A new tank. I'll just leave it there.
Let it take a picture of the ground?
No, just shut it off.
All right. I know we're being recorded here.
You bet, for posterity. First thing I want to do today, I want to get this compression up a little bit. We really had this softened up. I have the little higher compression head. I want to put that on. And then I want to start making sure I have this tank shimmed. Again, it's this back and forth, always finding both ends. Too high, too low, and then try to get it right in the middle, if possible. Joe's getting some work with his props, and we'll start recording flights eventually as soon as we get some of this work done. And it looks like the weather might, my God, we might even have a flyable day. Hard to believe. Now it looks like at least we've got one thing accomplished here. Joe's got this tank working fairly well. The one that's in the plane now I have shimmed about, I guess roughly where it is. The compression's set pretty well. So at least we're making some progress. It's not really a great flying day. The air is puffy, but you can see the plane going through its own weight. But again, I keep emphasizing that if you do this stuff on bad days, when you get a good day, hopefully you'll be ready to fly. Have plenty of spares. Now what I did bring for today's session, I brought some extra hardware to try. I have a muffler there with a little bit different hole pattern. I've already tried the lower compression head. So I've got two choices here, and I've tried to get what I hope is going to be nice soft power, relatively soft power. That's what I'm looking for. Plane is relatively light, and it really will benefit by having a nice soft power package. Joe Adamusco, Boeing Employee Supreme. I say that, here goes the air. Goodbye. Bye. It was fun having a nice flying day while it lasted. Oh, what luck we're having with this air. Before we end this session, one of the things I want to try is the tank has a very large speed up from the beginning to the end of the flight, and sometimes you can make a difference just by putting the muffler pressure to the overflow and capping off the uniflow, so in effect you have a no uniflow tank. So one of the things whenever you're experimenting and trying to work on setups or change things, that's one of the experiments, real easy to do. Hook a piece of tubing, end of discussion, and it's real simple. If it doesn't work or if it doesn't change much, it's not a big deal. Remember, what we're trying to accomplish here is I want to get the speed up from the beginning to the end of the flight to be about 2/10. Right now it's a little more than that. It's 4 or 5/10. And that's what we've been trying to beat this thing to death to accomplish that. And Joe's got his done already. I'm lagging. Nasty, you're always lagging behind. Now when the vents are hooked up this way, in effect you don't have a no uniflow tank, it's just a box tank. Again, but it always pays, like Joe said, it always pays. Let me see that tank you have, Joe. It always pays to have the uniflow vent in case you want to use it. Now, do the little dissertation on this. See, Joe's got his stuff in a little bag, all prepped up.
Right, this was the tank I started the season on Mr. Awesome with. It's a homemade unit, 6 ounces, just a little wedge in the back. It's got a baffle right there. You can see the joint like 1.25 inches or so from the back.
Right.
It's made out of 8 thousandths thick tin stock for the body, baffle, and the end cap. The front cap is 15 thousandths. Because in case you get, like you can see, I got plier marks in there pulling this, just to make it a little stiffer.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
And I take a little scratch on, I mark like PU is pickup, OF is overflow, and fill, and I usually mark the capacity, which says here 6-ounce tank, and I made this in October '94. So I know that this setup worked.
And it's in a plastic bag. It's your backup tank.
Worked okay. Check this out, Wendy. Let me show you something else. I kept the fuel line and filter set up from the original setup.
Yeah, that's exactly the way it should be done.
And my tube.
Exactly. And mark down if you want it how much of a shim goes in it.
So, and check this. I took a little block of wood, slid along the aluminum pad on a motor mount
and
with this tank. When this tank was in position, because I knew I had a good run both ways.
Right.
And I put a little dimple in a balsa and found the center. I knew that was 5/8. So when I put the other tank in, I wanted the pickup tube to be use this as a gauge. So just something.
Yeah, you've got a gauge. Okay, doing it with a gauge is good. I measure it with the gauge to the bottom of the plane, not the mounts, the other side. And I know it's either 16, 32nd. You know what I'm saying? I always reference from that. But either way is okay.
So that's.
All right, good technology. I hope somebody can pick up on some of this. Okay, and one of the things I can still do, I still have one tank set up, and what I want to do is pull all the guts out of Strega. You know, prop, tank, everything, right out. That's a whole nother setup. And we know it works in Strega, so it should be dialed in pretty close. Now this was a real significant difference of almost 4/10. It's 4/10 less when I run it this way, and we had to change the tubing around after flying it once. In other words, the speed up right now is in the range that I'm looking for. The only thing is I don't want to run a plane with a piece of spaghetti hanging out the side. There's always a chance it'll fall off in the middle of the flight. Having said that, you almost guarantee it will fall off. But what it does, again, it gives you all the choices. You don't want to make a plane that you have no choices on. Running it this way, it in effect is a no uniflow tank like a big Jim Greenaway tank. So, having all the choices, same as Joe is doing right now, going back and forth, trying different tanks, different venting systems, until you get, at least if you have a rough idea of what to expect, at least you're a little bit ahead of the game. And one of the people I know that, aside from Big Jim, Joe, Jim Damerel makes some excellent tanks. Woody, excellent. In fact, Woody's tank is probably going to be the one in here. Now, one of the things Joe has offered to donate to our cause, and of course we're always soliciting donations, is to show how he makes his tanks on video. And he says it takes him about 4.5 hours. I also would like to get, if I really could, is get Woody Midgley. Maybe I can get him the next time he's down the house to show his technology, assuming he wants to share it with everybody, and I'm almost sure that's the case. But not many people that I know are comfortable making tanks, cleaning them, checking them, and going through the routine of getting them set up so they're in a bag ready to put in a plane. But anyway, that little trick Joe just showed, that's a good one. And we're always looking for tricks. And if you want to share some of the things, the little ideas that you have, hey, send them in. I'll put them on a tape. I'll give you full credit. We'll pay you the usual fee. One slice of pizza. Anyway, maybe we can get Joe to come down the house one of his days off. Or another choice is one of the days we get down here and it's not a flyable day, we'll hand him some tin and say, make me a tank. Get a flight or two on video here. Remember, I'm not trying to, at this point in time, really not trying to hit bottoms and do accurate stunt patterns as much as I'm really trying to get the motor runs for my backup system, so when I get all this stuff in bags, I'll really feel, well, I'll feel like I'm ready to go flying. And this will be something in the back. Think I'll go in one click faster?
That or is it a...
It's a super Tiger, and it's got 2 glow plugs in it.
And it fits on a 60?
It's a stock 60 with 2 glow plugs. I can't wait to try it. It's not hemmied out yet. It's a squish band head, so we'll see. Here's something more to play with. This is running nice. I don't think you should fool with this too much more.
That's what I like.
Just watch the air. It's getting punkier by the minute. What the plan is here is I'm going to try to get another 5-ounce tank, mail it up to Woody so he can make a 5-ounce with the Woody baffle, the Trick special baffle. But I think it's pretty clear we're not going to need the Uniflow vent, at least right now. That's the indication I get. But of course, what's the lesson here? Have them both sitting in the box, and then you can't lose. Same as Joe has. And I mean, this is a technology that if you never raced motorcycles, cars, boats or something, you might not realize, like Rick Mears or whoever, the top riders, and you know, who knows who they are now. I don't follow racing, but always spare everything. You never have too many spares, especially when you have friends that are always borrowing things. Anyway, when we get to the Nats, we really would like to have all our spares in order. Now next weekend is the first contest of the year, Massachusetts. We're going to be going up on Saturday to try to help some of the guys that show up the day before. And we hope to see Noel Drindek's new plane. Hope Scott Smith and the boys show up. Bill Hummel's got a new plane. And I've heard that Woody Midgley's got a killer new plane that really should be something special. I really can't wait to see it. Of course, Woody is, I feel, one of the nicest, well-kept secrets in the world of stunt. He's always a gentleman. He always protests at the Nats. Always conducts himself like a true bombastic gentleman, like John DeTavio. Anyway, hey, we hope we're going to get to see John DeTavio soon. Flying season's coming. We're going to hopefully be up at the field every day. Either after work, before work, or during work. We don't know. It's hard to tell. Anyway, we have almost enough footage here to go home and make some decisions. But I'm pretty sure the decision we're going to come to at the end of this day is that we need a 5-ounce. Let's see, the original tank we had from Woody was a 6-ounce. Now this is something that may skip by a lot of people, and you really don't want it to skip by. It's not the same to have a 6-ounce tank and put 5 ounces of fuel in it and say, wow, I only put 5 ounces in. First off, a 6-ounce tank is heavier by some amount, always adding unnecessary weight. Number 2, having a tank that's bigger than you need to have, the fuel is sloshing around like, forget about it, and it's always altering your pullouts. Every time you try to pull out, the fuel sloshes to the front or the back or the side or something. I know, and I mean, it's a very subtle thing, but I think it's worth pursuing. A tank should be exactly the right size. Now, I had heard, I never heard this from firsthand, but I heard from other people that one of the neat things Paul Walker does is he has tanks made up in 1/10 of an ounce increments. So if he needs a 5.3, he puts a 5.3 and fill it. There's a lot of benefit doing it that way. And I think it's one of the overlooked little trim secrets. I'm not a believer myself in plastic tanks. I've never had good luck with them. I like Big Jim tanks, Woody tanks, Adamusco tanks, Damarel tanks. All of them run fine and can be tuned and trimmed to suit. But the best of all worlds is to have one or two of each. And if you do that, and you're willing to try them all, try the different venting combinations, muffler, no muffler pressure. Now one of the combinations left, when we could try it, is to run no muffler pressure and just run an open vent. We have that choice too. A lot of choices, and if you have them all, you're not going to be getting to the gnats and all of a sudden, oh gee, now I wish I could do this, that, or that. It's like a muffler pressure fitting. If you have it and you don't use it, put a screw there. It doesn't matter. Now if you need it, it's there, it's threaded, it's tapped, it's ready. One of the dumbest things I've ever seen is somebody at the field decide they need to try a muffler pressure fitting, put the drill and the tap right in while the muffler's on the motor, get plenty of chips in the motor, and then start the motor. And when I told the offending person that I didn't think that was a good idea, take it off the motor, I was told I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, okay. But it really does happen. See, that's the problem with knowing a little bit, is you get yourself in a problem where you're eating up good motors. These motors are hard enough to come by without eating them up unnecessarily. All the choices. If you pick that up, if that's the only thing you pick up off of this tape, believe me, it paid. You will save money. You will not eat motors. You will not go to contests and be frustrated. And most of all, you'll have fun. When you get to the field, all this nonsense will be done. about as good as it gets there at Amushko. I'd say we've got the best air of the day. Air's getting all squirrely and crappy and everything. We're ready. Good day. We're going to go up and have some bagel.
You know, I'll always have them, so we need them, we got them. But
What Joe's doing, and I was going to put it on, but he's already got it. Always put the blanket on. These windows have a curve to them, and what happens if they just happen to focus in, which is what I see is just happening here, everything goes all to hell in a handbasket. That $11 aluminum cover, worth its weight in gold if you have a finish you want to protect. Yeah, I think it'll be fun. See, I come home, my friend's eating here. Hey! Son of a... Don't talk back to me. Listen to him. He likes his new bird feeder. Hey, nice bird feeder, Wendy. Yeah, I'll take a seat and fly away. Little doorknob on it. Anyway, it worked out to be a nice little project, but we have things to work on back down the shop. It's like we never get sick of taking this thing apart, but I talked to Woody on the phone, and he's going to be making me a 5-ounce tank with some custom venting. But in the meantime, I just want to put an extra vent in this tank, so I don't need this piece of tubing. The whole idea is to get rid of this piece of tubing. This piece of tubing has really been a nuisance at best. What happens, it drips fuel once you fill it, and since I want to get hopefully get a whole week of flying in before Massachusetts, we're closing in on the contest season here, and I'd like to be prepared. I'm sure everybody else is out having practice today. It's been a good day. This actually was a pretty good day. And Joe and I are firming up our plans to do this I-beam, carbon I-beam wing. Get Joe to do a tank demo. Maybe we can get Woody to do a tank demo next time he's down here. A lot of nice stuff coming up. Dave has the plug now for making these out of the canopy material. We may even have a sample of them by the time we get to Massachusetts. Okay, now what I want to do, I want to put an additional vent in here, and this is just a stopgap thing till I get the tank from Woody, the real tank. I'll put another vent in here, and the reason for that is when I fill it through the Uniflow, if I reverse the tubing, I'll always have this big bulge down here. I don't want that. The reason is if that fitting comes off the muffler pressure, you're going to have a lean run and you might hurt the engine. Okay, step one, I cleaned the whole tank on the outside with M600, dried it all off. Now I want to locate the other vent up in this corner, and this is only going to be a fill vent. That's all this is going to be. Just punch a hole in the tank with a nail. The nail is fine. Clean this up real good, and then wipe it again with M600. Now what I'm going to do is trim this off completely flush and then put a little V in the back. The idea is I don't want, when I go to fill a tank, I don't want to have this right away it comes out the overflow. I want to kind of have this off into the corner if possible. I want to deburr it and just leave that little slot just in case this presses up. Now I want to have this go right up in that corner. I could climb the snow-capped. I put a bend in the tubing, so now I can tell exactly from this bend, I can see exactly where that's pointing. And I know this way I can get it, line it up during the soldering operation, I can get it right up in that corner. And of course I'll get the iron, do this with Stay Bright silver solder. Okay. Now most important thing, remember, clean the joint with baking soda and water, or else you got that corrosive action going on there. Now I always like to deburr this, and then of course radius all the edges off. And we'll take the tank outside, flush a little fuel through it. Okay, ready to put back in a plane. Now it's a good idea. Woody was putting a coat of epoxy on these to keep them from rusting, and even better idea is coat it with Simonize. It'll make getting it in and out of the plane even easier. Well, that parting wax would be a good choice, just like we do the tank shims. So now we have a tank that has uniflow, no uniflow, pressure, no pressure. We have about 25 different run options here. Always easier. Put the tank in first, see how easy it slides in? Almost like I planned it that way, huh? I didn't plan it that way. What I'm not going to use, this is the Uniflow tube, I'm not going to use it, I'll just cap it off for now. And if I ever really do want to go back, I have the vent already there, so it really does give me all the options. And it's all it's left is button it up. And you can see we've got a beautiful rainy day here, so I think we're going to try to get Robert Sabatino over here and try to finish up his Nobler, get the tank vents in and get that ready to fly and see how that paint is working out for him. Now just a couple of things before we do Robert's plane. This is such basic stuff, but yet there's still a lot of people that don't really have a real working knowledge of it. The old days, the old tank with the vents soldered to them, breaking off, and the tank couldn't come out and every other thing, and it was always a problem. Well, modern planes, the vents are in the body, or even on a profile, the vents can be a totally separate thing. They can then be connected with some rubber tubing, so it totally isolates the vibration. Now this is really a major step from what we had in the 50s and 60s, major step. Now, in the case of a Nobler, I guess if you look at the plans, one of the things to remember is, let's look at the top of the fuselage. I've had many people put the vent on the outside of the circle, the Uniflow vent. Well, a couple of problems. To run a muffler pressure line, you have to have a two-piece of tubing like a snake. Well, again, I've seen profiles also that have had any combination of the vent right on the tank and all kind of other stuff. But the best possible way, the first choice is always on the inside of the fuselage. In fact, let's do a Nobler, since that's what we're going to do. We'd like to have it on the inside of the fuselage, higher than the tank itself so it doesn't siphon. Now, if you put the vent down here, as soon as you'll take the fuel tubing off, it's going to drip and drool and you're going to have a mess. Now, let me get Tank Tubing Nixon on the phone. If we go back a little bit, when I did the Red Baron, I thought I was really cute. I'll just make a little profile. And what I did, I put the tank in a plane, and I put the overflow vent and the filler on the bottom. If you look at that, and when it was built, it never had. And I did try to do like a little plumbing thing with the tubing going this way, so it wouldn't siphon. And you know what would happen? In fact, I had these facing forward. And what would happen is, maybe one time out of 5 you'd take the thing off, it wouldn't siphon. One time out of 5 it would siphon. Sometime it would drip some. I guess depending on where that vent actually wound up. So what my feeling is you should always have the vent higher than the tank at any price, not get too cute. Again, all these things are cute in the middle of the winter, they look real nice. You always get the idea, yeah, you've just invented or discovered something. Really a nuisance. That's even worse if you have a low vent and a tongue or a barrel muffler, even worse, because what will happen, it'll siphon into the barrel muffler, and there'll be a half ounce of fuel, and that a motor starts, and boom, raw fuel all over your plane. And typically barrel mufflers, tube mufflers, will spit fuel all over the plane, usually, and they wind up putting fuel here and there. Where a tongue muffler, if you've looked at the Seafire, you can even see it in the video, the smoke stream seems to be really low. Now the advantage would be if you had a tube muffler, let's say, and Casminato had this, he had the tube way down, but the problem with that is it starts to look like a diesel truck or a, I don't know, a speedboat or a submarine or something, and on a Spitfire, a Seafire, that's really not what one of my choices is. But the tongue muffler, again, it keeps most of the oil. I'd say 90% of the oil just blows off the plane. It also doesn't put a strange airflow out onto the wing where the stuff is bubbling. And gee, if you look at a video of a plane go by with a barrel muffler, you always get that smoke stream going around, and in loops you see the smoke stream. Well, that's one of the advantages of a tongue muffler. Well, small advantage. Not only that, but it doesn't look, in my eyes anyway, as ugly or as deceptive on a semi-scale plane. Anyway, good technology for the tank vents. As soon as Robert gets here, we're going to give him a little tank vent technology. We'll screw it up. Now, some other interesting things we've just come in contact with. In fact, Jimmy called me this morning. He's got the double star. Here's the double star. Now, if we had assumed, and to show you how you really always have to measure things, the double star had a 315 Venturi, but a very big spray bar. This is a 315. Let's just call this a Big Jim. The Venturi size was exactly the same. We had thought, and this is 165, the diameter of the spray bar. I had thought that spray bar was way bigger. Well, when Jimmy measured it, guess what? It was 164. So just maybe the fact that it's in a taper hole or something makes it deceptive. But what we basically came to the conclusion of is a double star and a Tiger in that throat area are pretty identical. Well, we know from having switched heads and from having shimmed the head, we know the compression is really close because they turn the same prop, make relatively the same power, and we can vary that according to the day and according to the plane. But this was an eye-opener. This was something I didn't expect to have happen. But Jimmy's still going to have the motor. I hope he's going to have a couple of Venturis made up, maybe even by today, tomorrow, whenever he's got a day to work on it. I also wanted him to shorten that nose cone if he could, so that it would fit, lop off some of that material. Number one, that'll make it a little bit more attractive when it sits in the plane. That's one of the modifications that I'd like to have him make. So the last thing is now that we really haven't it. We had the stock muffler, and I wasn't crazy about having that hanging out the side of the Seafire. And I have that one tongue muffler, and this had 8 120 holes. Now Jimmy had come up with, we were trying to, of course the Tiger has run like that for years, we were trying to come up with what's the relationship here. This is a 380, and here's a very important point. Even though if you do the calculation, 8 times 120 is close to this number, but one big hole as opposed to the same amount of swept area. If you have one big hole with a given amount of swept area and 8 small holes with the same amount of swept area, this is going to be, in effect, flow more. The reason for that is you lose, along the wall, you always lose some of your flow. In other words, for a given amount of swept area, this has less wall area. That's the reason you lose the flow. So anyway, what we intended to do, I think Jimmy's going to open up these holes to a larger size just to give us a test. The reason for doing all this is the double star still uses about 4 ounces of fuel. The Tiger uses about 5. And the thing I'm not happy about with using this little fuel is not enough oil runs through the motor. Now, when oil, you're actually using 20% less oil on a flight. So think of this. If you increase the oil in the fuel well, that would be one way. But now you have a smoke machine. You have a mosquito remover. I don't like that choice either. I would rather try to get the motor to use 5 ounces of fuel. So that's the next part of this development thing. Next time we get to the field, we'd like to get, probably this will be the easiest way to do it, is to open these up. It'll relieve some of the engine heat too. If we can get them to both use 5 ounces of fuel, now we have very similar power characteristics, fuel consumption, everything is very similar. Now we have a choice of this motor I know that's not lighter, it's lighter, like a cigarette lighter. Nobody, we're not having a spelling bee here, we're having a stunt contest. Anyway, and this is, so this gives me a lot of choices. And one of the choices it gives me, and the reason I'm going through this, is I really want to use those carbon multi-blade props, and they're about an ounce heavier than wooden props. Well, now, it doesn't take a lot of brains to figure out with the heavy motor and the heavy prop, I might be really getting to the point of being way too nose heavy. But with an engine that's an ounce and 3/4 and maybe the heavier prop, I'll be down to about a 3/4 ounce. You see the relationship? It'll give me more choices, and if I can get the run characteristics very similar, I will in effect have choices in trim that I normally wouldn't have if I only had Tigers. So I don't know how much further this is going to pan out, if it's going to pan out at all, but it's something that I'm looking forward to developing, and obviously I'll pass this information on to anybody really that's interested, and Mike Kajeski has a double star too, so we'll be looking forward to a little more testing next time we actually get to the field. That's about as good of a replica of a 52 Nobler as I've ever seen.
This is just a question of cutting random.
George Aldrich would be jealous. That finish doesn't look bad at all.
No? I was trying to...
That looks great, in fact. Hey, in fact, it's still wet. It's got the wet look. It is wet. He just came in out of the rain. The man who came in out of the rain. Oh, that looks good. Okay, you got the little tongue muffler on there? Okay, what we got to do is pull the motor out. You got the tank with you, right?
Yeah.
All right, wipe it all down. Let's get the tank. That does look nice. Get the tank ready.
I can't imagine any.
I'm telling you, this is not the truth now. This is your first built up. This is not like, you know, some kind of deceptive advertising here. This is good. You ought to send a picture of this to Brodak, and this looks more like the plane than the one Aldrich made. Looks good. We'll see how that paint will buff up too. Yeah, to get, first we want to get the tank in, get all the hardware off of it, and make it easy that way. And we'll weigh it up, get a balance, see if the vertical CG is close. You'll have some idea of what you have then, you know, before you go on to, actually, before you even take it to the field. You got lines cut already?
No.
Okay. Those out there. All right. And the first thing you want to do, let's get some sandpaper and get the paint off of the pads. You don't want to be bolting into the paint. You want to be on something. Get a little piece of sandpaper. Take one of those nail files.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Cut the end off if you have, but get in there and get the paint off of that as the first step. Otherwise, you know what happens? It's gonna squash in there, and it's not workmanlike. I mean, this is okay. You don't worry about sanding off the blue, the anodizing. The anodizing is just decorative. It's not doing anything. If you need a new one, I got a whole box of them down there somewhere. Little tank. First thing, get rid of the razor edge on the vents, no matter what. Now what you really should do, Robert, is, you got any fuel with you? Is take a gallon of fuel, pump it from one jug to another through here, and get out all the, you know, these things are a year old by the time you use them, the dust and dirt. Okay, but always break that edge. Breaking that edge is really important. And then we'll pressure check it anyway. That edge, you ever see people, what am I telling you for? The tubing bends and right away there's a razor edge that cuts it, right? Now, what you really want to do is stick the whole tank underwater, take this vent, tap it off, put the pressure from the fuel pump and hold the pressure and see if there's any air bubbles. But I don't think any of these tanks really leak, and they're not bad at all. But if you make your own tank, that's a good idea. You know, if you buy some bogus brand, tapping this stuff's usually pretty good. Now, each vent, this is 220 paper, put the circles this way. That lets the tubing hang on just a little better. If it's shiny and polished, there's only one chance in 100 it'll come off, but if it's your good motor and you're at the Nats or whatever, who needs it, you know? I mean, I treat this like it's an IndyCar race, you know, it's not your local auto store. Okay, now it's got a little bit of a tooth to it. Okay, let's get that in. I'm not familiar with Brodak's motor, and I'm assuming it's similar to a Fox. A Fox would run real close to being the height of the pad. Now we're a little bit higher by about a 32nd. I'm going to make a 32nd shim for under here, and the rest of the shim's on top to start. Because I don't know where this motor is, you know, we don't know where this motor is going to shim out at. But believe me, by the time you're done, you're going to be sick and tired of taking this shim in and out, but it's got to be done. Or it's never going to run right. That's why if I'm at the field at the, you know, like next Monday, we can take care of this in a lot shorter time. And get a pad like this to work on a plane. When you have a profile, it doesn't matter if you lay it in the mud, you know? But try to get even a piece of a pillow. 2 pillows is good. Because we're going to be wanting to lay it. And I don't have this with me all the time. I only have it now because I'm working on tanks. This is one of my old tank shims, and what I want to do is, for all purposes, use it for pattern. Now see, it's a little bit too thick. So let's get a ruler, let's take off about a 1/16, and you know this is a 4-ounce tank, so this length here needs to be 4 inches. The problem is you want to leave a little tab on there so you can get the pliers. If you don't leave the tab on, and now you're at the, see, in the shop, this stuff is easy to do. When you're at the field, you're hot, you're sweaty, you're on your knees, the bugs are biting you, leave a nice tab. Believe me. Okay, so let's lay this out. That little tab on, you would hope that when this slides in there, you're going to be able to get the pliers out. So, now you have a pattern. Now you can make up, I don't know if I have 32nd ply, but we don't need to make this right now. We need to get the vents in.
Right.
Make this as your pattern. Make a couple of 32nds, a couple of 16th, maybe a 3/32nd, all out of plywood. If you want to be cute, you can make them, you know, put holes in them. Have fun. We don't need to shim the tank here. All we need to do is get the vents in. But I would start with one shim, because usually the motor will run faster inverted. So I'd start with 1/16 under the tank, the rest on, and just get them in. That the last one, you got to force it in without break. You know, not a sledgehammer, but you don't want to have the tank that you can move it around. Having the tank in there nice and solid is real important. All right, go over to the jigsaw, cut that out. That's your pattern. Trying to mark where this is actually going to go while he's doing that, because he's got to get to work. You really, boy, you lucked out. You got just enough room for a vent here. Okay, take a look at this. Now see, the vent wants to be on the inside of the circle, and it wants to touch the mount. Look at how little clearance you have here and here. Now what's going to happen, once we put the vent in, you're going to always have to take the shims out of the top and then pull the tank out. You can't just pull a tank out, because it's going to hit the... You always take the top shims out.
Oh, because then you have to pick the tank
Pick
up
the tank, right. So right here is where that vent has to go. Let me put a little mark and we'll get this drilled out.
Hey, Robert!
Hey, Mike!
Cook it.
Flo, this is plywood. You know that's nice and solid.
Now, are we going to be under pressure, or...?
You always want to make it that you can do it both ways.
Okay.
Now, these shims, go take some Simonize over there. When you're done with the plywood shims, put a lot of Simonize on them and don't wipe it off. That way when you slide them in and out, number one, they're fuel proof. Number two, you can get them out. A year later, guys paint these things with dope. The dope sticks together. They're glued in. You're going to be able to get all the way in. When that's down, you still want to have enough room to pull. Now see, the reason I left it that side is because you're going to have a tank vent. And make sure the back of it isn't hitting the motor. And you have that tongue on there. Okay, that's great. Now, Billy Suarez has some real nice thin plastic to make tank vents out of. If you call him up, he'll give it to you for nothing because he gets it from work. Call him up and say, gee, could you give me some? Yeah, I'm sure he'll send it to you, it's no problem. But he gets it from work, and it's like Teflon, it just slides in and out. The problem with this stuff is, if you put paint on it or epoxy, in time it gets squashed together, and then you go to pull a tank vent out, and oh my God, it's a nightmare. You got a 16th under the motor. Now you want to come up here. Start with 32nd. You want to make 2 out of 32nd. Okay, I'll write this down for you. In other words, what you don't want to do now is go make it. Looks like you have about 1/4 of an inch. If you make 1/4 inch shim and you want to shim it a 32nd, you're stuck. So you want to make a 32nd shim, 2 1/32, 2 1/16, and the rest of them 3 32nd.
We want two
2 32nd, right? 2 1/16, and the rest 3 32nd until they fit, or just fill it up with shims. Then when you get the whole tank shimmed and you're satisfied that this is in the right spot, then you can go home and make 1 shim. But you want to be able to adjust it at the field. You don't want to be that you're at the field, it's a beautiful day, and you need to go a 32nd and you got a 1/4 inch shim. That's what you don't want to have. Pull these 2 holes and make up the tank vents.
Now I didn't tap. This is not tapped.
Well, I have a tap. That's no
I
problem.
brought one with me, but I don't.
You have a drill? You have a drill and a tap?
I didn't know
Okay.
where you wanted it. I didn't know where you wanted.
All right, just real quick. Copper tubes will crack and split. Brass is a little bit better. It's always good if you're going to use copper to anneal it. Heat it cherry red, let it cool. That softens it up. This, if you use it, I use it just the way it is. You got the little Harry Higley bender. You want to make 2 vents, each one with an. This one is just a straight piece. This one's a 90 degree. So we'll just bend these up. We just bent up 2 little pieces of tubing, and I want to get a couple of eyelets here to solder on this. And what the eyelets do is they just give you a little bit thicker of an area, working area to work with. Otherwise, if you just go gluing a tube in, well, there's a very little surface area. By increasing the diameter, you increase the surface area, it gets a much better grip, and you don't tend to pull them out after a season or half a season or a day of flying. The most important thing is to score. We got the eyelets soldered on and score that area where it's going to pass through the fuselage, so it gives it a much better bite. And if you've ever pulled one of these out of a fuselage at the field, and every one of us has, you know that's usually the end of your fun for that day. This is a good way to do it. With M600 here. Clean off all stuff. We already defluxed that with baking soda and water. Now when you want to drill those holes in the fuselage, what I have a problem with, and I guess I'm clumsier than most, is you run a drill and it goes. Well, I like to just take a Dremel tool with a small cutter and just very gradually burn the holes right through. A nice tight fit here. Right? You like to be able to just a press fit. Now when we fill that with epoxy, because I don't have any 5-minute, when you get home, turn this over and put some 5-minute in there so it acts like a washer on the other side. You see what I'm saying? And we can't do that now, because otherwise what's going to happen, you're going to be here for 4 hours. Where's the other vent? I want to get your ass out of here so Kajeski can rule the world. Okay, this vent will fit in, and we just got to get some epoxy and we're all set. Now, you see how the vent, you want it facing dead forward, even with the mounts. Okay, that's number 1, and you want it 90 degrees with the body. And then I want to build up a little fillet of epoxy in here, the same way as in here. And I'll make some epoxy up with some Cabasil in it, so it's like putty. Okay. I ever did. I made this plane, went out to Flushing, brand new plane. Big Jim is there, everybody's there waiting to see the big windy plane fly. Go to put fuel in and there was epoxy in the vent. Try getting it out at the field. It was in the part that had the bend in it. Well, basically it was a lost cause. Now, this has a little bit of Cabasil in it. Really an option, not a big deal. Just to thicken it up so we can make a little fillet inside. I'll give you some of that to take home too. Okay, get plenty of epoxy on it. You're not trying to make it pretty right now.
How do you not get it in the hole?
Of course, you always epoxy your lips right to the thing too.
Says you have 5 minutes.
Now you got to if we had 5 minutes, you could babysit this 5 minutes, flip it over. Now you got to wait say half an hour or something. Same thing with this. You want plenty of epoxy. Don't try being a scundrel, you know, with this. You want plenty of epoxy. Build a nice fillet inside. Because nothing worse than real pretty vents that look real shiny and pretty and everything. You take the fuel tubing off and they come off with the tubing. Now that one's got some epoxy in it, we know that. Now this one is a problem. See, we got to figure some way of holding this for the next half an hour. Luckily I've done this before, so I have a trick. Okay, so see what I'm doing? I'm just building up a layer of junk here. Now we'll also have to see that we don't let any drip down into that hole where the motor bolt is. Take the dry end of the Q-tips. Let's make sure the motor fits in there. We haven't built this up into the back of the motor. And then you're going to sit here for 10 minutes and hold this while we work on Mike's plane.
Sure.
And you're not getting paid. That's the bad news.
We should have weighed this before.
The worst jury rig thing, because we don't have any 5-minute epoxy, we don't want to hold this. This is holding this in position. Now you can bring this up just a little bit. Yep, there we go. Make sure that's 90 degrees. And you can avoid all this if you just buy 5-minute glow. Look how money this guy saves not buying the right stuff. All right, now we got to wait till that to dry. What are you thinking about? I'll put this in my car. Nobody will know I didn't build it.
Quick, let's switch.
All right, let's get this out of the bag here. What do you got, a guitar, a violin, a machine gun? Let's see.
Gun.
Come on, baby. Now, Mike is using proven technology here. He brings the plane over every once in a while so we can see what he's doing and avoid those disappointing last-minute uh-oh. All right, use the one you made right out of the kit, right?
Right.
Okay. Fat City, baby. Got a flat tail?
Flat tail.
Ah. Oh, my God, that looks beautiful. My first choice, always. That is nice. You got the wrapped leading edge, the hollow leading edge, or is that solid?
That's hollow.
Hollow? Okay. Got the Ray Brother linkage on here. The horn inset just, oh, the hinges. Man, you are just coming along, man. Yeah, that looks good. Okay.
The only thing I wanted to ask you about is this. Should we bring this in, cut this off?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to make or break the plane. It's fine either way. If you want to make it
Because
pointy,
it is wider.
I'd leave it big. The
Right.
plane is going to have a 60 in it, right?
Right.
Okay, leave it big. Yeah, that's a nice tip shape. What you might want to do is this, though, Mike, is take a block
Right.
and just get it dead even before, you know what I mean? So it doesn't come in and then have a curve to it.
Well, I
What
wanted
a-
to stop before, before I covered it. I wanted
Yeah.
to look at it.
I like the join in here. That's the right way to do it. That's an excellent way to do it. Let's see what else we got. You got the little piece of wire on here, too? The notch with the wire, or just solder it?
Just solder.
Okay, well, when you go home, put a little, we could do it here, put a little notch. Believe me, cheap insurance.
Yeah.
And sometimes even free insurance. Oh, the controls are nice. Good. That's real good. Now, the only thing I would do, see where you have the horn inserted in here?
Right.
Okay? Soak this whole area with CA, thin CA. Soak it, sand it, like 4 times till this is shiny CA. And cover it with fiberglass cloth.
Right.
That would be a good, nice wood in this kit, boy. This was a good one. I'm telling you, you know your stuff. You got the horn hooked on, good. It's not going to come jumping off. Gear blocks in, the Adamusco preferred. Yeah. That's great. Okay. Mike's parts. The tail is a little on the heavy side. We'd like to get 6 grains off the tail. So what I suggested that he does is just taking sand an equal amount off the whole tail. But keep squeezing it. See, nothing, you didn't hollow out the tips. You could hollow out the tip. From now on, you'll hollow out the tips. Okay, that would be one thing you could do. You could lose some of the weight. You're going to lose about 2 grams of hinges when you clip the hinges. So that means you really want to get 4 grams off of here. You don't have to glass the middle because you have the grain going on a flat tail straight across. And don't sand the leading edge much. That sucker is punky thin already. That's that hollow leading edge. Okay. What thickness are the elevators?
1/16. Yeah.
These are 16th over the geodetic ribs?
Right.
Okay. You could sand them a little bit. That's not a problem. You could, if you could, is take a sanding on the whole thing. So you get the, but as soon as you feel it getting soft, Because otherwise, then what happens? You fill it with filler. Now, if you're going to use the flat tail, fill that little piece. Just take a piece of the scrap. In fact, you could use the piece that came in the kit, and then we'll mount the tail up here when we do the assembly. The joint came out beautiful on that. That's real nice. And you could get some of the weight off out of here before we put the top block on. That'll be easy. Yeah, it's going to be nice. Midgley's got his almost finished too, so closing in on it. Yeah, that'll be nice.
Mike almost has his done too. He just said you don't have time to,
Yeah, Mike Cooper's almost done. Yeah, I can't wait to see his. He's a good builder.
it's all built.
This is the wing we made in 4 hours. This is a good wing. And the flaps line up, man? Oh, yeah. You're ready. You're in Fat City. That's going to be nice. We did. We made up a cowl for Mike. This is laid up now. So you're really in Fat City. You'll have a cowl. You don't have to carve.
Yep.
You got a tail that's a tad heavy, a wing that's a tad light, and a body that's strong as a bull. You want to make a molded top block now?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's make up a molded top block for this guy. You're just going to lose the turtle deck now, you know. You won't have that hump in the back. You know, it'll be like put a bubble canopy on
All right,
it.
I can decide one way or the other.
Okay. Block, where's your fuse? Let's see if it matches up to your, it should, they're the same fuse. You got to join a piece of wood to do this. You got to make it in 2 pieces. Let's see the fuse. Okay. Perfecto. Hey, nice. See, it gives you a lot of meat back here where the tail is, too. Okay. Now, what we got to do is you got to get a piece of 1/8" wood, and we got to join it. Okay, then wet it, and then wrap it down. I got to get the pieces of wood, because you got to have A-grain wood. But that'll fit perfect. So now you need the nose piece, and the nose piece for this is the piece off the Spitfire. Let me just see if it's the right length. Really long debate. We tried to come up with a Spitfire nose section. This just a conglomeration of parts, but what looks like it'll work perfect. This is John DeTavio's top block, the universal one. What we'll do is we'll move this up, and you're going to do a good sanding on this. Okay, so we're going to use it from there, say to here, but we'll mold the whole shell and then work that in, and then we'll mold this piece, and you just cut the back off a Midgley's mold. So basically, that's what you're going to have. You'll have a molded shell and a molded shell, and this piece you can just throw away.
Okay.
And this will definitely be less work. It'll be a lot less work. I just hope we have some good A-grain wood. This we don't even need A-grain wood on. This worked nice for Dave. And then the Cardinal canopy, you know, the one with the point, will fit right on there. Trace this out. Let's leave enough material on here so we can get the mold. This is the first time you've done one of these, right?
Yeah.
All right, so good. You'll at least have a good experience. Now, before we do anything, you trim that off. That'll give you enough material. Okay, trim that off with a brand new knife. I'll get the ammonia, and we can get one mold set up before we have lunch. The only reason you get that off is when it comes to the end of the mold, if it sticks down, it's kind of a pain in the neck. And then we'll get that soaked up with ammonia. Pie is on the way, needless to say.
I'm gonna split.
You want to try taking that? Just when you get home, rejig it up. I mean, make sure it isn't, because it ain't going to be dry by the time you get home. So.
No.
All right, take that.
And then I'll cut out the shims.
Cut out the shims.
And then I'll put the tank in and shim it.
Okay.
And then I should be able to put the tubing, you know, the
yeah, of course.
flex
Okay.
tubing in there.
And I'll meet you at the field. You going to be ready to fly?
I hope so.
Next Monday, I guess.
Well, I'll
I got to cut the grass first.
Guys, it.
Do good stuff.
Yeah. Keep soaking it. Flip it over. Get it good and wet. Don't be cheap with the ammonia. Breathe deep during all these operations. Breathe deep. The gathering gloom. Yeah. Get it good and soaked. And then I just start squeezing it into shape. Get it roughed in, and then we'll wrap it with the ace bandage. Plenty of ammonia. Don't be cheap with the ammonia. All Windex if you really. Curving it by hand, just little by little, work it in. Get plenty of ammonia on there. Don't be cheap with the ammonia. It's like you're making a birch bark canoe. You could be an Indian, just in case Indians ever come back in style. You're in. Pay attention, Robert, because you're not going to want to carve any more top blocks after this. Be your last carving job, I know. We got molds for everything now. I'll bet they can even make an Aries this way. Just put as much of the curve in as you can. Give it another soaking if you have to. Ammonia's cheap. All right, now at some point, you feel how soft it gets, Mike?
Right.
If that was C grain, it wouldn't get like that. Only A grain is going to get nice and soft like that. Okay. Now you can get ready to pop that on the mold. Let me get the ace bandages.
Ace bandage coming up.
Okay, lay that right in the middle of the mold. Okay, we're only going to cut the middle of this out, so you really see if you were going to use the front, you'd be real careful. Bend it, bend it, bend it, bend it. We're not going to use the last 2 inches, so you can start in the middle for that matter. Pull it in. Now, if it was bigger than this, you want to trim it off. You understand why? That would just come around.
Right.
All right, so if you can get one wrap on it that it's holding itself there. 1 second. Just pull this around. Once you get one wrap, okay, you got a mummy on your hands.
Okay.
Hold that and just keep twisting it. And we'll let Sabatino do the other one. Because you could do this, well, we did it for your Nobler already, so what am I worried about? But you don't have to make that so tight that it's like a woman's girdle, it just needs to hold the wood in place.
Yeah, because you make it too tight, you'll
Too tight, you'll
get it in the grain too.
Yeah, but it springs a little bit, but that's okay too.
Then we got to soak this, right?
Yeah. No, it just sits overnight in the mold.
Then it dries that way and takes the shape.
When you take it out, it'll be perfect. You just trim it on the line of the wire that's on the mold. There's no way. I've taken a whole day to carve out the top of a Cardinal, and believe me, even then, it's not as light as it's going to be this way, because this will be the exact wall thickness. The grain will be going in the right direction. And we'll trim it to fit. You'll be in Fat City. It's a real time saver. So you'll have a glass cowl, molded top. You see this Nobler, it'll be at the flying field. We'll see if he knows what he's talking about.
I'm going to try to use the...
This should be ready. See, this didn't dry up. It's really cold in the house today. And this is not 5-minute glue.
Use 10-4, 11-4, I don't know what that is.
Bring all the props. Okay, so you got your molded parts. Now you know how to make that back piece, right?
Right.
Should be no problem. If you have to, look at the video with Midgley making his. We got that in stock. This is going to be a nice Cardinal. I just wish I could have convinced Robert that that's a good direction he should be going in next, but he's resisting change. Anyway, he'll have a lot of fun with the Nobler. I think it's going to fly real well, and we'll get to see it. Well, we're going to see it within a week, one way or another. Just let that thing sit in the mold overnight, you're all set.
Yep.
Okay, first off, I want to thank Will Reinhardt today. He sent me some music tapes, some audio tapes. Nice 20s and 30s music. We'll be enjoying them, that's for sure. Anyway, he knows I like old music. This came from John Gunn. John is, I donated some prizes, I guess, to his contest. And he made this up for me to use, and there's only one problem.
We don't know how to use it.
All the brains on the East Coast can't make a Dairy Queen here.
But,
okay, but I think we could figure it out. Given enough time and enough wire, we can figure out. Now, Noel Drindak would figure this out in a minute. He'd figure out where to put the exhaust pipes and everything. I assume you put the wire through here.
Yeah.
An eyelet. Is that?
Put a wire in an eyelet.
Okay, and then wrap this end of it.
Right. Usually,
then you can take and wrap this
you're
back.
sitting there going crazy trying to hold the wire and wrap it at the same time. So here, you can lay in a little piece of wire, pinch it right here,
Okay.
and start doing your wrap.
Now, remember Figs used to have something like this? He used to have a little,
He
loosen it
never
up.
showed me any ideas this good.
Well,
And then once you get the your first wrap done, you want to fold this back. You can take
right,
one
you can
out,
pull one wire out. Okay,
Fold
pull
it
it
back.
tight.
and in fact you can close this up again if you want to.
Yeah, cool.
And
Right, and now you've got tension on a wire for the second
Right.
wrap.
Right, and then you can go ahead and put your second wrap on,
Yeah.
take it off of here, and finish it up.
The most important thing when you're doing this wrap thing is not to hold the wire in your finger, because then you make a telephone extension cord. You better let it kind of twist as you go around, it's got to rotate, or else you're going to build a twist into the wire. When you get to the end, it'll be like a telephone cord. So that's one of the good tricks. And anyway, this does looks like a usable tool. John, appreciate the donation. And the next time we have to wrap some lines, which it might be tomorrow, if it ever stops raining, we'll make up. Oh, if you got to make lines up for any reason?
No, I've already made up a whole
Okay.
pile.
Well, next time somebody's over here, Sabatino didn't make his lines up yet. We'll.
But this is a real cute tool.
Yeah, that works well. So that's pretty good. John Gunn. Ken's going to make up some ribs for a Bucks Deluxe. Keep in mind, the one thing you never want to do when you make ribs is stagger them like that, because you don't get the grain go. What you want to do is get the grain, if you put them and stagger them, but that they always go down the middle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't want to, it's like to try to get one extra rib, people do that. It's crazy. Let them be this way, up, down, but not on an angle.
But I'm curious about this wood. Now this is pretty light wood for a rib. I would use preferably sea grain or.
Okay, if you could find some sea grain, go over there and look and see if maybe you could find some. I don't know. Those were the first 8 pieces. Did to my this disrespectful. Ah!
You made me pay for the shirt.
Oh my God! I'm gonna make you pay for the pizza. Look at this. Boy, hard to get good help these days. Your job. Show me this technology. Why? Oh my God! This motor weighs more than my lawnmower.
The motor's 3/4 the weight of what you got right there. Yeah.
Woo! That is a motor. What is that? A 60?
61 long stroke.
So what is this for?
The width of the crankcase for the throw.
Holy mackerel! I don't know if you can see the beauty of this in real life. This is some motor. Wow, Mark 12, a Moki Mark 12. There's a tank box for you. No problem. Holy, and this is plywood? Mm-hmm. This is real, genuine plywood. Anyway, this is Jimmy's soon-to-be dominating the world of carrier plane here.
Oh, I don't think so, but it'll be
Holy
a carrier
mackerel.
ship anyway. The wing's all done. This will be together.
Hollow wing or solid wing?
It's a built-up sheeted wing.
This is one of those things, what do they call them? The high wing?
MO1.
MO1.
Seems to be the only thing to build, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, once something starts to win, everybody in this hobby is the Pied Piper's helper, you know? Anyway. Now, what'd you decide to do? You got all the wood weighed up?
Yeah.
Here's what Kenny did. Obviously put the heavy wood in the middle of the fuselage and the light wood out toward the tips.
I got 7 sheets here, so I'm going to need one more sheet.
Okay.
And this is stuff that.
We'll take the one that has the most sea grain in it and try to get the ribs up toward the side. See what he's talking about? It looks like they joined this wood. It looks like it has a joint in it. And this is sea grain, but this isn't. So if you were going to use the ribs, you'd want to use them up here. You don't want to use this A grain stuff. Try to get 8 sheets will make the ribs. 8 sea grains will do it.
And we got a whole range of weights here. It's not like we got.
Yeah, well, the heavy ones you want in the middle, right under the wing.
Right.
Right under the fuse. And the light ones out at the tip. That's the way that should go. See what the compression gauge is.
200.
Goes to 200 psi compression gauge. Let me see the address. Where's the address?
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
As these are Joe Adamusco's plans, he's going to be building, well, we hope he's going to be building, a Bucks Deluxe and turn it into a Spitfire, a small Spitfire. Only one problem, he's looking at the ribs and going, how do I cut the ribs? So we're going to screw him good on this one.
Well, I made up. I took a set of these, put them on plywood, cut them out, and I got a set of plywood templates. But it seems just as easy, if not easier.
You're going to make the thicker version or the thinner version?
The thicker version is the stuntress.
Oh, okay, right. So you need the small one.
I need
cut them out.
Ones. So I'll just cut them out and glue them up.
You cut them out, glue them to the wood. Make sure it's sea grain. And like I said, just use the heavier wood right in by the fuselage and the light wood out by the tip. And Joe has those nice instructions in with them too. They're real nice. That's a good flying plane. It's not a As PM here, we're going to try to figure out if it's feasible to repair it yet. But first we're going to order pizza pie, of course. And he's also got his old-time ship here. What are you going to do? Put more trim on this? I want to show you.
gotta fix some places.
I want to show you the bottom. He did a what is now the Jimmy trademark. Suarez is out, Jimmy's in. Checker's on the bottom. Wait till Suarez sees that, he's going to die. He's not going to go for that. Hey, you guys got to pay me to use checkerboards on the bottom of the plane. I don't. Income, boy. If Brian was here, we could all go have pizza, and we'd just leave him here with the checker and pen. Take care of this whole thing in one stroke of the pen. I like that. Disrespectful. Disrespectful. Look at this disrespectful person. Funnier to you than to Tsunami.
Tsunami ain't laughing, I know, yeah.
Yeah, and he wasn't. What we're trying to do, how long has this thing been sitting with tech size?
I've been redoing it every 2 weeks for about 6 months.
And it's still coming up like chewing gum. Oh yeah. Like chewing gum. So the first thing we want to do is see if we can get down to something like raw wood. I'm guessing you're going to have to take some of that, or a lot of that material off. Don't worry about making it, like it's even. I'll sand that down even. You want to scrape, just physically scrape. See, this has got tissue or something there. What is that?
That's tissue.
Tissue? Okay, let's get that all.
You can see some places it dried up and powdered the way Texas is supposed to.
Yeah, but not
Other
always.
places I keep getting this smear, and I can't believe there could be this much oil.
Yeah.
I mean,
where is it coming from, first of all? This is not oil-soaked wood.
Well, this is where we melted the lead.
Okay,
to the stop block. And I
okay.
think what it did is it lifted, we didn't see anything wrong with the
Right.
wood, but it lifted it from the wood.
Just
and the
enough.
oil got between the paper and the wood.
Okay. Well, let's see how much we can scrape off of there as the first step. See what we can get off of there.
See if I can find some wrenches I didn't bring along with me.
Okay, the Joe's, that roadie tool. Anyway, this is good and oil soaked. What we're going to try to do is get as much of this down to raw wood as we can as the first step. Use an M600. It looks like the M600's working better than a KR2.
Happens is,
Are you shaving this, scraping it, or beating on it, or what? That's working good though,
Getting
huh?
the flaky,
By the way, for the record, for sure this stuff you were using is a waste of time. This is the stuff, M600, soak it. Just keep putting, I don't care if you use the whole gallon up, soak it till it's raw. That's going to be fine. We'll be able to fiberglass that tonight. That'll be like a brand new plane. No problem at all.
beautiful.
But it's M600 by the gallon, and just keep putting it on. Now, believe it or not, as rough as this looks, and it really does look rough, I would say you got all the oil out of here, Jimmy. I would say nothing that you're dealing with now is oil soaked beyond the point of, this is a cosmetic sanding. Get a coat of glass on and then blend it. I'm just trying to estimate this. I don't want to sand it now in the shop,
Yeah, well,
Just thinking I can do this out on the deck and not carry
this has been sitting for a year and a half. There is no rush here.
There is no oil on here that's going to keep you from putting, and there's no integrity. What is going to happen to that nose? Nothing. That's fine.
Just knocked the elevator off, that's all.
That's okay. The pilot just fell out the back of the plane. Okay, so I'd say we'll wait for a sunny day. We're going to paint the Dragon
Get some clear on that.
and get some tubes for the CA. Hey, by the way, you want to see something? The biggest scam in model aviation? Great Plains CA. As soon as you open it up, the tip glues on, and when you go to turn it out, it breaks the tip off, and you got a $10 bottle in, but no tip. Great Plains, you are scamming us. Watch, I'll hear about that too. I don't care.
Needle valves.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't mean that, mister. I was just kidding. Ah. No, that's the truth. All right. Oh, let's see from George. This momentous George. We're going to fly the electric Cardinal the next day. Jimmy's going to fly it. He's never flown RC before. Give us a prediction. Give us the papal prediction. The Venturini papal prediction. I pronounce this Cardinal in nomine and filiae aileron sponte.
Tip from the Pope is this.
So you got the second one almost done yet or
The
not?
guy that delivered the pizza pie to the Vatican. And the guard says, look, when you bring the pizza, I get half the tip. So when the pizza guy walked out, he says, well, where's my half of the tip? He went like this here.
Listen, you gonna fly that Cardinal? When are you gonna fly it? This weekend?
No, I make fly it Wednesday.
When? Where? Up at Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
I'll go up there with
If I get
you.
enough nerve.
Let's finish the brickwork first, so we have a little. Cardinal side by side. I got to get even with this bastard. Look what he did to my tsunami shirt. I'm not impressed at all. His sense of humor and mine are not exactly dovetailing in here tonight. All right, I think that's it for tonight. I'm going to bed. You guys are wearing me down.
I didn't see that. What did I do?
He put no tsunami on my... Okay, now we came up with even some more interesting information that we didn't know. Now we've got a bunch of old Tigers here. What Jimmy was trying to do, put that up on the camera, is make... The problem with this is when you put the double star in the plane, it sticks out a thickness that's not good.
Well, it'll be this much anyway.
So we somehow looking at this, we assumed we couldn't get a Tiger nose cone to fit. And it looks like a Tiger nose cone will fit. Now, is it the same length? Put it up against one of the old Tigers. If it's the same, we're in Fat City, we don't even need a sandpaper shim.
No, this doesn't have the...
Oh, we don't have a cone. I don't think I have any spare ones. Yeah.
Everything but the nose.
I know, I'm missing parts to make motors here. I can't even make any more motors. Okay, so forget this.
Well, I've got some noses.
Well, the easy way is I'm going to put it in a plane next time we go flying. Bring the damn thing just the way it is.
Real
As long as it works, yeah, as long as it works on a... It's very scientific, you notice. This man is a graduate of the Windy-Arnowski School of Make It Fit Technology. Now that'd be nice.
Hey, that way it's longer.
Okay. Now switch it. Well, of course you could use this one on a Tiger too if you wanted to make an extension unit. You know what I don't understand now? Why the hell did they do this?
That one's longer.
Now, Jimmy, why would they they both have bronze bearings. Why would they make this longer? The idea is to make the crankshaft as short as...
bearing.
No, but why would they make this longer? What would be the advantage of
They
making
have a longer taper lock to get a better
just
surface area.
Surface
get a better.
Okay, that makes sense. The Tigers don't slip, so I mean, when does a Tiger slip?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking now. That's the proof right there.
Sure.
I mean, if that works, why do you need that?
Exactly. Well, I don't know.
We'll find out.
Okay, and I got...
Perfect.
Well, we get this back in the plane. Okay, so we learned more about this. We learned a spray bar is the same as a max, and we were incorrect about that. And we learned another thing. Jimmy measured the swept area of this. You got that little chart there with the swept area of the holes? This is how scientific we are. We do
every supermarket list here? Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy's buy two kohlrabis. The stock motor comes with a 380 hole and a stinger. Now, these numbers are not really linearly...
4536 square inches for the output. Right. With 810 holes, it's only 0.3. Instead of 0.45, it's 0.30. But if you just go up
to 10 thousandths,
say 0.30, 20 thousandths, you're up to 42. If you go up to 45, you're 52. You're bigger than a 380 exhaust hole. And that's just 20 thousandths.
Keep in mind, as you get the holes bigger, of course it gets louder, fuel consumption goes through the roof, and the other thing that happens is the motor runs cooler. As you go the other way, the motor runs hotter, fuel consumption goes down.
But because fuel consumption goes up, you're making more power.
Oh, absolutely.
You're making more power for the same torque and RPM.
So what we're trying to do here, we still haven't really finally accomplished, is to get these two guys to run that we don't even know which one's in the plane, and then live with this one because he's 2 ounces lighter. So far that hasn't happened, but we're sneaking up on it, we're grinding away at it. It's only a matter of another 6-7 years and we'll have it. You know what would be cool? Just looking at this. You know, when you were holding these motors before, can you picture this? A Harley V-twin. Oh my God.
Time to go to bed, Wendy.
I think it's, yeah. Well,
turn it off now.
That was 2 hours ago we should have went to bed. All right, sick puppy. Now you can see this is a dilemma we face often here. This is 3 or 4 days already. It's been raining all day, raining all night. It's been really, really wet and mucky and everything. But one of the things we have a choice of here, and maybe I should put this on a storyboard, We have a choice. We really could get through a day like today if we really had to, except it's not really our first choice. Now, the Massachusetts contest is coming up soon. In fact, if we can't get this painted today, Jimmy might not be able to fly it this weekend. So we're going to make every attempt at trying to get some clear on here, even though it really is raining. And there are several ways we can work around getting around that. Maybe I ought to storyboard this up. Okay, there's just a couple of thoughts here. Every once in a while, you're going to have to deal with this. Now, obviously, the choices, in order of choices that I would select, is to wait. Wait till it's not raining or not high humidity. The problem with that is, wait for a sunny day, whatever. The problem with this is sometimes you really can't do that. It's a week before the Nats, a week before a big contest. In this case, we want to go to Massachusetts this weekend. Jimmy's really itching to fly this plane. He's worked on all winter. But that's not really the choice. The first choice anyway. Okay, the second choice is you can take the material, which normally would be dope, if you're doing, we're talking about clear coats here, and instead of using dope, use 380S. That's acrylic. Now, the reason is dope is very, very prone to blush. Dope is probably the worst material as far as blushing goes. 380S is a lot better, not perfect. Okay, so from this, once we make that decision, we're going to go with 380S. Now you have two choices. Let's pretend we're going to thin it 50-50, and we're going to use 3608S. Okay, that would be choice one, and we do a little test. Come down here. I'm doing this like a flowchart, like I'm a computer guy, right? We do a little test. It still blushes. If it doesn't blush, obviously just go paint the plane. We test for blushes. If that doesn't work, we have two choices. We can reduce the pressure, and at some point in time, believe me, if you get down to 8-10 pounds of pressure, there will be no blush, basically because you're not putting any material on the plane. It's going on so thin you won't trap any moisture. But that's not an infinite thing either. There's a point of no return on that. Then the last choice is if everything else, and believe me, you really should go through this test exactly the way I'm doing it here, if you really want to run the lowest risk that something's going to go wrong, is retarder. Retarder is absolutely the last resort. And in a mix of, let's just pretend that we had 8 ounces, this would be a typical amount for an old-time stunt plane, 3608S, okay, and then there would be roughly 8 ounces of 380S. This is the acrylic clear. This total amount, it's the total amount now, not part of the amount. The total amount, 10% maximum of retarder. And the reason for 10% maximum is this will have a tendency to melt canopies, melt ink lines, melt lettering edges. Any more than 10% in the mix is really, really a high-risk thing. Now this is the DuPont. Of course, every company that makes thinner makes a retarder and a high-gloss thinner. If you read this, if you read the label on the can, it really tells you a very rich, slow evaporating. What that means is as it's evaporating very slow, it's also going down into your glue joints and substrate. This is the reason I say 10% should be the maximum. Acrylic lacquer top coats under conditions of high humidity. Improves flow out. Well, it sure does. Now, it's different if you're doing a prop. You could almost use this stuff straight on painting a prop. Hardwood prop, very thin substrate or no substrate at all, painting right over the wood. But if you go putting this over a canopy, if you do this under cool conditions, and it's 55 degrees out there now, under cool conditions, this will take so long to dry. Sometimes it takes more than a day or two to dry. What it'll do, it'll soften up the whole paint, and 2 or 3 days later, you'll pick up the plane and leave a fingerprint in it. So this is something you can use to your advantage if you're familiar with how to use it. But if you don't know how to use it, it's like having a gun. You can shoot yourself in the nose. You can, blow your ear off. You can shoot your wife, and maybe not a bad idea. Maybe my wife could shoot me. Anyway, this is dangerous stuff to a model plane, not to a car, because you generally don't melt steel fenders, but you really can melt. This will melt CA joints. It'll do all kind of nasty things if used in excess. 10% of the total mix max. If it still blushes, then you got to. Okay, so now you've reached the point of no return where we are now, and we've done the whole test, and we've gotten down to the last possible thing, and we know we have to use some retarder. We've mixed it up, put it in a gun. Now there's two other things we can do to give ourselves the best chance of success. We can always paint the bottom of the plane first. And whenever you're in high humidity conditions, if you can paint the bottom of the plane, here's what happens. Get the bottom painted. Thin coats are better than thick coats. Thin coats, and let each coat dry. And this will give you a little like an experimental piece to work on, and you say, gee, it took 2 hours to dry, an hour to dry, it took some amount of time to dry. Get a good idea of how quick you can put the coats on the bottom. Do all the bottom, because if you get a blush, it'll be on the bottom then, rather than the top. Then when it comes time to do the top, look at this, Nixon's painting his plane today. Now that we've resolved all the problems of the world in finishing. Okay, back to this. Always do that bottom first. This gives you all the choices now. Now you know, say you had to wait an hour between thin coats, 2 hours, you have an idea, but you haven't jeopardized the top part of the plane. Now you can flip it over, and with some certainty at least know, take this number and multiply by half. So do the top and give it an hour and a half to dry between coats, because now you'd have to deal with a canopy, and a canopy is the most prone thing to melt. Ink lines, so give yourself an hour and a half between coats. This way you deal with, you take the least amount of risk with the top part of the plane that you're going to want to have perfect. In fact, you hopefully want to have the whole plane perfect. But do all your experiment. If you have some spare flaps or props or cowls or wheels or whatever, you can do all the little parts first, as we always do, then do the bottom of the plane, so that the last thing, when you're all fine-tuned in, you're working on that last thing, it's the top of the plane that most people will look at as the part of the plane that they're going to see. Now, one of the choices I'm going to have today that I normally wouldn't have, because Karen is out on a whole day for a meeting, so what I have a choice of is I can paint early in the morning, and even though it's 50 degrees out there, I can crank the heat up, get the heat or the sun working for me. Now what I'll do with Jimmy's plane is I'll put the heat up in the house, get the heat cranking along, so that in the house, on my thermostat upstairs, it'll show about 70 degrees, even though it's 50 outside. And what this will do, this will dry out the air in the house. You have air heat in the house, it'll dry it out. That'll give me another little head start on getting this done, even though it's pouring rain out there and it's in the 100% humidity. And a lot of times, if you use all of these tricks and tips, and if you do them methodically and logically, what'll wind up is you really can paint in pouring rain. You can sneak one by. It's like having a quarterback sneak or something. But by using the heat in the house, by using the technique of doing the bottom first, and by planning this out with about 10% of retarder, sometimes you can even do a very acceptable job. Now, not always. You may even get to the point where even with and several people have already done this, or even with the heat on in the house, and with all this technology, or all these tips, or whatever you want to call it, they still get blush. If you do, by that time, it should only be on the bottom of the plane. Then you really have to stop, and then you're under conditions which typically are in a cellar of a house on a rainy day, which is where we are, that the humidity is so bad that you just really will not get the plane painted no matter what and then you have, the last choice is you have to wait. And boy, this is a must. What I do is I don't even keep this can of retarder. Here's the reason. I don't even keep this where the paint is. I keep it in my closet. The reason is it looks just like a thinner can, and a lot of people have been over here mixing paint, and I'm not around, Kenny or Jimmy, and they think it's thinner. They don't really read the number or whatever. Maybe they're having a little eye problem or whatever. They blow it into some Sig dope, and all of a sudden they have paint remover. Anyway, I always mix, put it in a separate jar, mark the jar in several places with retarder, 10% retarder, acrylic, Fisher, so you know what you have in that jar, and even the date that we mixed it, so you know, a year from now, you know what the hell is in the jar. A year from now, I'll forget what's in there. It'll look like vodka, who knows. Anyway, this is really a precaution to take, really religiously too, and it's the only way I know of on a day like today to even have a little bit of a chance that maybe you can get the thing painted. Other than that, if you only have 3608S, probably no way. And see, if you look outside, it's still raining and we're still basically bogged down in this weather. But we'll give this a shot. I'll try bottom first. Again, this is really not a bulletproof thing, but it's certainly something that'll work a lot better than dope. I'm trying to use the indoor light here to candle it. Remember, the key is thin coats. Now the whole trick here is to wait long enough. Let me just see if you can see the thinness of the coat. See, the other side isn't painted. Let this dry long enough to see that it's not going to blush before you go on, and then if you do, we'll do the bottom of the wing. Do this in steps. Make sure we're not. I have the heat up. It's over 70 degrees in here now. It's actually warm. Don't even need a flannel shirt. But this is really a stopgap thing. But I'm pretty confident we can get this painted today. You can see what I've got. I got a coat on the bottom here. And I'm going to give this time to dry. And I'm going to lay it on its feet and just do the top as the last step. So I get some light. Come on, you lead out. Murphy's Law. You just can't win. Now, I'm just trying to give you as many tips or as many ideas as possible for getting on this clear under some really terrible conditions. This seems to have worked fine. But again, it's a little more time consuming to do those tests. And of course, you can always do a much, much nicer job if conditions are perfect. But in this case, we're going to have to settle for, for a half a loaf or something. And if the conditions you can see outside, if you look down, right down in the rain puddle, it's pouring rain. But the thing that makes it possible is to have the heat on in the house. And of course you do wind up heating the house for nothing. But you still can get, it just shows you that you can do these things under some battle conditions or whatever you want to call it. And I hope you've gotten some good ideas off of the tape. Some of the things we've shared here in the shop. As I always end the tape, please share the tape, share the ideas. Thanks to John Gunn for his little invention. Thanks to everybody that shared all of the things they share. Because it's in the sharing that you're really going to have the most fun, I think, possible. It's not in the owning, it's in the sharing. And given that, I'm going up. That's it. Let this gas off down here. Leave the heat on for the rest of the day so it dries it up. And I think by tonight this will be in great shape. And of course, what tape ending would be complete without Wendy's custom birdhouse? By the way, the magazine Blossoms and Blooms, or Blooms and Birds or something. I'm going to send them in the plans to this. This has certainly been the best bird attractor I've ever seen. These guys, if you leave the window open, they fly right in the kitchen sink here. It's unbelievable. We've had a lot of fun with this. Been a fun project. We almost know each one of these guys by name, too. Hey, who says you can't fly in rainy weather? Anyway, thanks for joining us on the tape. It's been fun. I guess it's even fun for the birds. Tell me this isn't great while you're having a cup of coffee. Maybe at the end of this tape it would be an appropriate time to look around your own life and see how many things there are to be thankful for and be happy for, and that you're in good health, that you live to be 50, that you have birds in your kitchen, that you have good friends, that you have friends like George that help you make a backyard like this. Without George, none of this would be possible. And I guess that's the essence of everything that everybody does, is having the friends is always the best part of all. Okay, see you on the next tape. Go out and paint in the rain. But it is more fun when it's dry.
I'll give you dry painting underwater when you're a piranha.
Look what's up here now, a female cardinal. Look at this. As I'm putting the camera away, the female cardinal comes up to my bird feeder. Come on, Mama, don't fall in. Look at that beauty. The female cardinal. If you don't know, they like safflower seeds. That's how we get them to come up here. Safflower seed. Oh, look at this. Don't fall in. Jeez, don't fall in. Where's the red guy? Cardinals. Ah, that's it. Kick the little guys out, you bully. God, bite his ass. Come on. This guy. Yeah, I'm the big bully cardinal. I'll just eat all the safflower seeds. Look at this bully. What a pig. See, we're looking through a screen. That's why it doesn't focus right. Look, there's the male out there. The male is back here. Here he is. He's right in the back. There he is. Hello. There's the female. Where'd the male go? Now, whatever you see with these cardinals, the male and the female, they're never far apart. They really are like, you know, like me and Karen. Who is he? He's coming over this way. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. Here he comes. All right. Mr. Cardinal. Yeah, I'm a cardinal, and you don't have to bite a kit to get me either. Look at this sucker. Anyway, this is what we do while we wait to see an hour or so to see how Jimmy's plane is drying up. Sit here and watch the birds, have a cup of coffee. Look at this guy. Safflower seeds is the whole trick. Oh! What the hell's he doing here? Hey, chickaroos. The chippies are up here now. Where'd he go? Anyway, we're getting ready. I'm going to go down and start checking out Jimmy's paint. See how it dried up. And we're there. We're out of here. Tape's over. Party. All right, this belated goodbye. Thanks to the Cardinals. Hey, see you on the next tape.